Sorry, I had a moment there. But welcome back. Welcome back, everyone, to part 32 of my 2025 DVD and Blu ray collection overview series. We are continuing on with the third shelf. I pulled the rest of the third shelf off of the one on the left. So we're gonna go ahead and try to get the rest of this shelf knocked out. Probably within the next two parts. Seems to be kind of the gist of this here. But the third, fourth, and fifth shelf are bigger. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyway, let's go ahead and get rocking and rolling. We're still working. This will be the last row, the last in the front. Last time we worked on the top. Now we're working on the bottom row in the front. So let's go ahead and do it. So first up, sorry, damn, this is a good place to start. But we got some Mark Dacascos DVDs. Always was a big fan of Mark Dacascos ever since I was a kid. With actually the first movie we're going to talk about here, and a TV series which we'll talk about, Double Dragon, stuff like that. Always was a, and the movie Drive, not the movie with Ryan Gosling, the other movie Drive. But I was always a big fan of his work, and he's another guy that should have been a much bigger star. But I remember when John Wick 3 came out, which he was the best part of John Wick 3 as far as I'm concerned. But I do remember when that movie came out, he was talking about how throughout his career, you're too Asian, you're not Asian enough, and he went through a lot of different, barriers, so to speak. But I think he's carved out a pretty nice little career, and he's been in a lot of big movies. Like I know he was also on. I didn't watch it, but he was on the Hawaii Five O remake for a little while. So I think he's done very well for himself. But let's go ahead and we'll get into his stuff here. So first up, excuse me, I have Only the Strong. Like I said, this is a movie that I used to watch all the time as a kid because they were just constantly on HBO and Cinemax. I think it was the previous segment where I talked about how HBO and Cinemax, again, they're the same, under the same company. I think it's now it's Warner Brothers owns everything, but I think back then it was just HBO, and then Cinemax was like their offshoot. But I think up until probably like the mid 90s, they didn't really have a huge back catalog. They only worked with certain studios. They could only get certain movies. They could only show R-rated movies at night, stuff like that. So it was a lot different back then. But this is one of the movies that was constantly on there, and I used to watch it a lot as a kid. And my mom actually quite likes this movie too. But this is the French DVD, and the reason being is because this actually got a shit ton of extra features. In America, you got nothing. I think maybe a trailer, if that. But on here, you've got the martial arts demonstrations, like some of the capoeira people. You've got interviews. You got making of. You got all sorts of stuff on here, which again never made it to America. And this is not on Blu-ray. Only the Strong is not. I've seen a couple bootlegs like that people have, but I don't know if those are ones that people made themselves. Because I looked and I can't seem to find a bootleg of this, because there were rumors that this was going to come out on Blu-ray a couple years ago for the 30th anniversary. That never happened, so I don't know. I would love to get this movie on Blu-ray, but here in America at least, it is owned by Disney because it was a Fox title, so I doubt that we are going to get a Blu-ray release of that movie anytime soon. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Next up, we've got Redemption Kickboxer 5, which was the best Kickboxer sequel as far as I'm concerned. Because you have Mark Dacascos. Now, it is weird because he does share the movie with another guy. It's Jeff Mead, which honestly, I was never big on him. The only other thing I remember him in, he was in an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which we'll get to in a little bit here. But yeah, I like Mark Dacascos in this movie. But the Kickboxer sequels, I know we covered. Actually, we did not cover 2, 3, and 4 yet, but we'll cover those in a little bit. But it does kind of get into weird territories with those. Excuse me. Sorry about that. It is early. I just woke up not long ago. But I do like Kickboxer 5. I like Kickboxer 2, 3, and 4, but I don't like that they killed off Van Damme's character, because apparently, from what I understand, I did hear a rumor that, and again, I don't know how true it is, because, again, it's just a rumor. I did hear that Van Damme was offered to do Kickboxer 2, and I guess the script was going to be more about him as the lead and stuff, or Double Impact, and he chose to do Double Impact over Kickboxer 2. Now, again, I do not know how true that is. That's just what I heard. So there you go. All right, next up, we have The Base, which he did with Mark Lester, who did Commando and Showdown in Little Tokyo. I remember this is another one that HBO and Cinemax would run a lot back in the day. It may have been an HBO premiere back then. I'm not sure. But I remember this one being okay. It's actually Jacques Haddokin, who unfortunately passed away. He was the director of photography. He shot Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 2, amongst other movies. And then Tim Abel is in this. I think Tim Abel's the bad guy. But Tim Abel was in a bunch of these type of movies. Actually, my friend, there he is right there, director-screenwriter, actually got to work with him. And he was a real-life badass. He was... I think he was Special Forces in the Army and such, which is cool. And the very lovely Paula Trickey is in it from Pacific Blue, so there you go. But I remember this one being okay. They did do a sequel with Antonio Sabato Jr., but I don't remember if I ever saw that one or not. And then we have The Hunt for Eagle 1. These actually, Roger Corman produced these. I remember when these came out on DVD, I was like, cool. Mark Dacascos is working with Rutger Hauer, and they're like a B military movie. I can get behind that. And I think these were shot back to back as well. So we have the first one, which I do like. They're both okay. I don't mind them for what they are. They're not bad little B movies. Rutger Hauer is only in a couple scenes, so I would assume that he probably shot all his scenes probably in a day or two. So there you go. And then we have the sequel, The Hunt for Eagle 1 Crash Point, which has Jeff Fahey. He takes over the role of Rutger Hauer. It's the same deal. I think he's only in a couple scenes, so he only shot, I think, his stuff probably in a day or two. And like I said, I believe these were shot back to back, so not bad little B movies. And then we have The Crow, Stairway to Heaven, the complete series. I actually used to watch this back in the day when it was originally on. I do remember when it was, a brand new TV show. And this is weird because TV Guide put this out. I don't think they did many box sets or many shows. Universal Studios put it out, but they put it under a TV Guide Presents label because Polygram made this show, and Polygram got bought out by Universal, which is also why Universal released X-Men, the animated series, on DVD and VHS when the first movie came out, because they had the license to it at the time before Disney got it, I think a year or two later. But I really enjoy this show. I think that this is the best of the Crow sequel, spin-offs, whatever you want to call them. This DVD, I think, went out of print very quickly, and it was expensive. I think I shopped around a little bit, and I was able to find a cheaper copy. It was new. I busted the seal on the side here, but What is really cool about this, though, is there is extra features. You do get, on the first two episodes, you do get commentaries with Mark Dacascos and Bryce Zabel, who was the creator of the show, who's gone on to do a lot of things, actually. He's worked on a lot of movies and TV shows and such. And then also on the last disc, you get all the scripts, you get magazine articles, Mark Dacascos biography, you get the score, episode descriptions, the production Bible, you get dailies for some of the episodes, you get bloopers. So you get a whole bunch of stuff on here, which is cool. And I think, from what I understand, I think the show actually did very well in the ratings when it was originally on. I think it used to come on after Highlander, The Raven, or maybe before, because I think they were always on the same channels, because this was in syndication back in the day, when syndication was a thing. Yeah, I think it used to come on like Saturdays after Highlander, The Raven, which I do not like Highlander, The Raven, which is why I don't have it. I think it did very well. Sci-Fi Channel picked it up for reruns, and then because I think the company got bought out, Polygram, there were plans to do a season 2, actually, and then they pulled the plug because, meet the new boss the same as the old boss, so there you go. Which is a shame, because like I said, I don't think it was a bad little show. I know a lot of other people actually enjoy it. It's kind of it takes the movie but kind of gives it like an alternate ending, which is kind of cool. It doesn't destroy the mythos of the movie, you know what I mean? And like I said, I do think that is the best of the Crow, sequels or spin-offs, because it tried to do something different. It wasn't just a rehash of the first movie, which is what they always ended up doing. Alright, next up we have Street Sharks. Love Street Sharks. I used to watch this all the time as a kid. There actually is a Blu-ray for this. I definitely want to pick that up at some point here, but this was definitely one that I thoroughly enjoyed as a kid, and I still like it now. As a big kid, because I'm still a kid, man. I'm not changing who I am. Most people like who I am. The ones that don't, fuck them. So there's that. But yeah, this is one of my favorite, maybe my favorite of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle knockoffs. This one I quite like. Biker Mice from Mars, that was a good one. I like that. That is, I think, the first season I have on DVD, because that came out overseas. Battletoads, but Battletoads was only a pilot. I'm trying to think, what was some of the other ones? Trying to think. I guess Bucky O'Hare would kind of count, because they were animals too. I don't know, but there was a bunch mostly in the 90s, because Ninja Turtles started, the cartoon at least started in '87, but there was a bunch of them. Some of the ones I mentioned, there's others, like Stone Protectors. I think they were trolls or something like that. I can't remember all of them, but yeah, they made a bunch of those Ninja Turtle knockoffs back in the day. Some were good, some were not so good, but it is what it is, I guess. Excuse me. And I still have The Punisher 2004 on DVD. First, we have a screener. Like I said, I don't have many screener DVDs. I don't even think for Blu-ray they do them anymore. I think they just send you a digital copy. But back in the day, when everything was physical, the better times, at least in my opinion, they sent out these screeners in this like thin cardboard case. But I think I found this on eBay pretty cheap, but still cool to have. Again, love this movie. Why not? And then I also have the UK Region 2 release, because this was sent to me. Again, I forgot who sent me. They sent me this, the Australian Red Scorpion, the Region 2 Double Impact, the Region 2 Rapid Fire. Again, I'm sorry if you're watching. I'm sorry. I forget who you are. But they sent me this one as well. So, yeah, still have Punisher. Next up, one of the absolute best physical media finds ever in the wild. I got this over the summer. Kenny and Company, which has been out of print for many, many years. Good old Anchor Bay here. This is this is the pre-Phantasm Don Coscarelli movie, but it does take place around Halloween, so you can definitely watch it around that time of the year, which is really cool. But I know Don Coscarelli said he's been trying to figure out where the rights are to it. I think he said he sold it to Disney, and they were going to do some stuff with it. I think they were going to re-release it in theaters. I think that's what he said, and then they were going to put it out on Blu-ray, and then it just never happened. And he's trying to get the rights back so he can, give it to somebody else to release it out there. But yeah, I found this again over the summer at a place I go to called Retro Replay, and they had it. I think it was like 30 bucks or $40. And I'm like, number one, I'm never going to find it in the wild ever again. And number two, I'm never going to find it that cheap. So I just jumped on it and grabbed it. And I actually did a little video about it because I was just that excited that I found it. I've been looking for that forever. That's a movie that I don't think got a theatrical release here in America. I know in Japan, it's a huge movie. It was huge in Japan, like the old saying goes. It never even got a VHS here in America. It only ever got that DVD, and that went out of print very quickly. Same with Survival Quest, another Don Coscarelli movie. I think The Beastmaster, when Anchor Bay put all those out. I think Phantasm 1 and 3, I think they were in print for a little bit longer, but I think those two went out of print quickly as well. I think maybe Phantasm 4 when they had that. I don't know, but now it doesn't matter because they're all on Blu-ray and everything else. But there you go. All right, now we are going to wrap up. Actually, no, we're not going to wrap up. But most of the rest of the row is Lorenzo Lamas, which I've always been a fan of his work because of the TV series Renegade, which you just saw and we'll cover. And I liked a lot of these movies that he made. He started out doing more drama, and he was on that soap opera Falcon Crest back in the day, which my mom used to watch. And then after a while, because he studied martial arts and he was always in good shape and everything, then he decided, why don't I try to show this on camera a little bit? So he started making, some of these movies. And some of them I have on Blu-ray. We'll get to them later. But, and then he carved out a little niche for himself. And then Renegade did very, very well back in the day. So, again, like Mark Dacascos, I think he did pretty good for himself. So there you go. So first up, we have Night of the Warrior, which I think I might have got this when I was in Nashville, if I'm not mistaken. No, because there's an Entertain Mart barcode in here. Yeah, and the sticker residue is still on. Never mind. But this is actually Thomas Ian Griffith wrote and produced this movie, and he was going to star in it, but something happened along the way. If I ever meet him, I would like to ask him. Again, he was going to star in this film, but something changed, and then Lorenzo Lamas took over. And, it is what it is. But not a bad little martial arts movie. It's more, I think, style over substance, but sometimes that works, and I think in this movie it worked. Ken Foray is also in it. He's one of the bad guys. He's actually right there. And Kathleen Kinmont is in it, and yeah, of course they get. At the time they were still married, so of course they get a little cozy. But I'm not complaining because Kathleen Kinmont, at least when I met her a couple years ago, still looked very, very good. So there's that. And then we have Final Impact, which is one of the movies he made with PM Entertainment. He made a few movies with them, which we'll cover some of the other ones here. But this one I liked. Michael Worth is also in it, the guy that is behind all the Bruceploitation stuff. But he was a martial arts action star in the 90s in his own right. So there you go. But yeah, this is not a bad little movie here. The only thing I don't like spoiler alert for a movie that came out over 30 years ago, is Lorenzo Lamas dies at the end of the movie. I don't know why they did that, but oh well. Then we have The Swordsman, which was one of his Highlander knockoffs. He would do a TV series later called The Immortal, which I don't have because that's out of print and it gets a little pricey. This is from the Netherlands because it was the only place it came out, as far as I know, on DVD. But it does have the English dialogue, and then it's just got subtitles, but I think you can turn the subtitles off. And I like the color. I like the blue case there. But not bad. I do like it. They did do a sequel, Swordsman 2, but they just recycled the footage from the first one, and then they had a body double for Lorenzo fill in the gaps. I don't know how the fuck they got away with that, but yeah, they did do a sequel, but he's not in it, technically. So there you go. And then we have one of my favorites that he was in. Excuse me, we have Bounty Tracker, which this might be let's try that again. This might be a bootleg, I'm not sure. Because Australia gets kind of tricky, but a lot of these movies never came out on DVD here in America. They're only stuck on VHS and sometimes Laserdisc, which this one has both because I have both. But this is definitely one of his better films. There's some really good fight scenes in here. Matthias Hughes from I Come in Peace plays the bad guy, so there you go. And then we have another Australian release of Final Round, which this DVD, it stops playing about an hour into the movie. It's just for whatever reason. And it's not like really scratch or anything. I might play it again, see if it works. But this did get another release in Germany, so I might wait. I might pick that one up at some point, but I'm kind of waiting for some of these to come out on Blu-ray, in Germany, because they put out the Snake Eater trilogy and the CIA 1 and 2. I have those on Blu-ray because they came out in Germany, so I'm kind of waiting to see if any of the like Retro Gold or any of them put out some of these movies. So I'm good with the DVDs for now. So slowly but surely they're doing them. Then we have Viper, aka Bad Blood, when it came out here in the States, because I think they changed it because there was a TV series on at the time called Viper, which I actually really enjoyed. Need to pick that up. But this is definitely one of the better movies, at least in my opinion. A lot of good shootouts, some good fight scenes, good stuff in here. And this is from Region 2 UK land, because it came out there, just like this one. We have Midnight Man, aka Blood for Blood, as it was called here in the States. And again, another one of the better Lorenzo Lamas movies, at least in my opinion. And this is one that like the USA Network and stuff used to run back in the day. So I remember watching this one on there a few times. And then we have Terminal Justice Cybertech PD, which I thought was cool. And once again, in the 90s, virtual reality they were trying to make it a thing. It didn't really become a thing, so they made a bunch of movies and, VR troopers and stuff to kind of play off of that, and this is one of the movies that did that, but not a bad film. Chris Sarandon is in it. I think he's the villain. So yeah, not a bad little flick. And then we have Mask of Death, which is kind of like Face Off before Face Off came out. So I don't know if they did that to beat the movie, or like they kind of would do later with the Asylum movies or what have you. But this one's all right. I don't mind this one. Billy D. Williams is in it, and also Ray Dawn Chong, Tommy Chong's daughter from Commando. So not too bad. And then we have The Rage, which Lorenzo Lamas actually said this is his favorite movie that he did. But yeah, this one's pretty good as far as I'm concerned. I don't mind this movie. I don't think it's too bad. Got some good stuff in it. Gary Busey's fucking crazy as usual. I think Roy Scheider plays his superior, his superior officer. So David Carradine pops up in it, but not a bad film. And yeah, Lorenzo Lamas said that this was actually his favorite of his movies that he did. So there you go. Then we have Good Cop, Bad Cop. Not too bad. I remember liking this one. A lot of these I've only seen a handful of times. I have to watch these a little more often, when I get the time to do so. When I don't have a million other things to watch. But, yeah, this one was pretty decent. Not too bad. Excuse me. And then we have Rapid Exchange, which Showtime used to run this a lot back in the day, and I used to watch it on there. Lance Henriksen's also in it. You can't go wrong with Lance Henriksen, as far as I'm concerned. But this one's all right, not too bad. They're trying to rob, again, you saw on the cover, they're trying to rob these planes and stuff. So yeah, it's again not too bad of a movie. And then we have Dark Waters, which was a Sci-Fi Channel movie. It's not really a shark movie. I mean, it has sharks in it, but they're not really the main focus of the plot. They're just kind of there to be there. But I remember watching this one quite a bit back in the day, and then also renting it from the Blockbuster, from the video store. And this one is a former rental from Blockbuster. So there's that. And then we have the other Sci-Fi Channel original movie that he did, Raptor Island, which I think I watched this when it premiered, if I'm not mistaken, and I had it recorded on a VHS. And then again, good old Anchor Bay put this out. But yeah, this is one that I would watch a lot back in the day when it was on. But again, it's a little B movie. It knows what it is. I'm not complaining. I like it for what it is. So it's just me. And then the last movie that I have, we have Moto X Kids, which, again, in the late 90s, early 2000s, when extreme sports really started taking off, they made a bunch of movies about extreme sports. Some were geared for kids, some were geared for adults. This one was geared for kids. And it's funny because it actually has Josh Hutcherson, who would later go on to, I think he was in the Journey to the Center of the Earth movies, and I think he's in Five Nights at Freddy's. So he's going on to have a pretty successful career. And then Alana Austin, she's kind of in it. She was in the Disney Channel movie Motocross, so this is the other one. And there's a monkey, so I'm in because I love monkeys. But Lorenzo Lamas is the dad in this. Gary Busey is the rival team owner, and they got a raise. I mean, it's very standard operating procedure, But it's a harmless little kids movie. I remember when this one came out in the video stores. I didn't see it back then for whatever reason. I actually found this at a Goodwill, and I was like, okay, I can finally check that movie out. So again, it's a harmless kids movie. And then we have Renegade, which is one of my all-time favorite TV shows. I used to watch this as a kid, and then when the DVDs came out, I was really excited. So I have again, good old Anchor Bay. I have the first season, which I did have this back when it first came out, but I got rid of it because this one came out, which we'll get into in a minute here. But yeah, I used to watch the shit out of this back in the day, and it's cool because there's actually interviews with Lorenzo Lamas and Bransco Richmond and Kathleen Kinmont and Stephen Cannell, so they actually kind of went a little out with this one. But I like this one. One of the episodes, though, let me see which one it is. Billy, the episode Billy, on disc 4. So right there. That one, I don't know if the tape got jacked up or the whatever they had to work with, but it suffers from like frame rate issues. Like it's really herky jerky. So I don't know if it was a PAL transfer or what. So it's dicked up. The previous copy that I had was dicked up. This copy's dicked up. So it is what it is. And then Anchor Bay also put out season 2 and 3. I have that over there. I just haven't watched it yet. I've had that. I had that when it first came out, and then I got rid of it because this one. But then I got it again at one point. But they're flip discs, and like every other disc would not play. So I don't know what the issue was with that. So I got rid of that one. I just threw the discs out because I'm not gonna take it to Goodwill and it doesn't work and stuff like that. That's fucked up. People do that shit all the time. And I got that. I got another copy. I checked it when I got it. All the episodes work. They play fine. So I don't know what was up with that one, where it was like every other disc, the flip side didn't play. So I don't know. We'll have to ask Michael Felsher about that. But I had those back then when they first came out, about 20 years ago now, which is hard to write. 2005? Yeah, this came out in 2005. That's really hard to believe that it was 20 years ago. And then Anchor Bay did not put out season 4 and 5 because apparently the first 3 seasons did not sell that well. So then in 2010, Mill Creek got the rights to the series, and they did a complete series box set, which I got this at I think BJ's. No, it's not Blowjobs, you sick fucks. BJ's is like Sam's Club and Costco. It's like a wholesale, big bulk store. I think it's only on the East Coast here because Costco is everywhere, Sam's Club is everywhere, but I think BJ's is only on the East Coast. And like Sam's Club, and I'm sure Costco did it at some point, they actually used to sell movies in there. They don't sell movies anymore. They haven't sold movies for a long time. They used to sell movies and video games, and then they stopped doing it. Now they just sell books in terms of, that kind of thing. But I got this, actually, when it came out, I saw it, and it was like $20. I was like, fuck yeah. And this went out of print. And it was expensive for a while. I remember looking at prices. It was expensive. I think I know Mill Creek put out the first 2 seasons, because that's another thing that they would do. They would do a complete series, and then they would re-release only like half of the show, and then they would lose the rights to it. But I think they might have re-released it as a complete series, and then VEI picked it up, and then they re-released it. So there's actually 2 different box sets out there. But I have this one because I'm like, oh, it's the complete series. So I got rid of the other ones, and then I got them back because they have features, and the quality is a little bit better because they do shove as many episodes as they can on here, which is shitty. But again, the season 1 episode of Billy actually plays fine on here, so there's no issues. And then, I'm not a fan of the paper sleeves stacked on because it's not good. But and then again, they shoved like 5 episodes on a disc, which each episode's about 45 minutes. So that's 45 and 45 is 90, and it's like 4.5 hours on a single layer. You don't really want to do that. So you are going to get some compression issues there. But the Anchor Bay, I think they put 4 episodes per disc, so 3 hours on a single layer. Not too bad, So that's it for Lorenzo. And then I have the other seasons of Seinfeld, because they only ever did box sets for the first 3, and then 5 and 6. They never did like fancy box sets for the other seasons. So, that's why I have these. But Seinfeld is on Blu-ray, and actually 4K. I was very surprised that they put Seinfeld out on 4K. But I definitely want to get these on Blu-ray because Seinfeld's one of my favorite sitcoms. So I can't complain. Excuse me. So we have season 4. And from what I did do a little research. From what I understand, they actually put all the features from the DVDs on the Blu-rays. So that's a good thing. Because a lot of times they won't do that. And we jump ahead to season 7. And then we've got season 8. and season 9. And it's crazy because Seinfeld is still on. I don't know if it's still on TBS. It was on TBS. Got the rights for a number of years. I do remember that, but it seemed like every network, every channel picked it up for syndication at one point back in the day. I think like right after the show ended too, because it was never not on. Like again, the show was done. They were not making new episodes, but it's just so funny because my grandparents, my dad's parents, they never had cable. They only ever had the antenna on top of the house, and that was it. But they had ABC. I think they had two versions of ABC. They got the Baltimore feed and the Washington D.C. feed, which I know they're not that far apart, but they had two UPNs. They had Fox, they had the WB, they had PBS, and then NBC. And I swear Seinfeld was on every single network at one point in syndication. So there you go. Alright, so now we're going to move into the back shelf, or the back 2 rows. We'll start with the top. Now, I'm not going to hold all these up because they will fall, but we're going to get into Buffy and Angel, which is among my favorite TV shows. I do like Angel more. I know that's probably blasphemy to people, but Angel, number 1, it was more of a guy show. Number 2, it was darker. It was more serious. Yes, of course, it had its moments of comedy. It had its moments of humor because you need that to levitate things. Humor is always very important in entertainment and in real life. But I think, Angel was a little darker. It got into some more heavier elements, especially like season 3 when Darla was pregnant with the baby and she wanted to abort the baby and everything, and it got into some pretty heavy shit there, which is interesting. And unfortunately, it ended on a cliffhanger. Like I forgot to mention, The Crow, Stairway to Heaven did that. But I still like these. And these are really the only things that Joss Whedon did that I like. I never got into Firefly. Maybe one day I'll watch it. The other stuff that he did, like the Dollhouse or whatever, I never got into that. And then it was just so funny that when all this information came out about how much of a dick that he is, I was not surprised because that's usually how it goes. So there you go. But anyway, then I remember a couple years ago, Sarah Michelle Gellar was on some stupid shit where she was like, "Oh, you're allowed. I say you're allowed to watch Buffy again." It's like, bitch, you're not my fucking mother. I'm an adult. I'm a man. I can do what I want. And then she was talking because they're trying to do a remake of Buffy. They've been trying to do it for a couple years now. And then Sarah Michelle Gellar was like, "Well, Zendaya should do it." No, Zendaya should not do it because Zendaya should not be in anything because she can't fucking act. So there's that. Oh well. But anyway, let's move on. So I have all of the older, like the bigger box releases because they've reissued these several times, and they still have all the content. Unlike the X-Files, I forgot to mention that because the X-Files, they did the bigger ones like this, and then they reissued them in like little slim packaging, and then they missed some of the features. So, but Buffy has all the extra features, so you don't have to worry. But we have season 1, which was only 13 episodes because it was a mid-season replacement. I mean, go figure. Went from a movie that did okay, but Joss Whedon wasn't happy because he's a fucking idiot. And then it aired as a mid-season replacement, and then it ended up becoming the first big hit of the WB and kind of saved the network because they weren't really doing so hot the first couple years. And it's going on to become one of the great TV series of all time. So there you go. You can't really complain, can you? Then we have season 2, which is actually my favorite. I would say is my favorite season because this is where Angel went bad. For at least the first time. He would later go bad in Angel, in that show. But yeah, I would say season 2 is my favorite. And it's funny because The first season did okay. I think it did well enough. It did get some. One of the discs decided to fly out. It did get some critical acclaim and such. But I think season 2 is where it really started to pick up. And then they re-aired the first season because Buffy was originally, I think it was on Tuesday. No. It was on Monday. Yeah, it was originally on Mondays. And then it went to Tuesday because the WB was they didn't have anything on Tuesday. I think it was like a movie or something. So they moved Buffy to Tuesday, and then Dawson's Creek started, which also became a big hit for them. And then on Mondays they were re-airing the first season. It was called like Buffy Begins or Buffy the First Episodes or something like. I do remember that back in the day. Because I did watch a little bit of Buffy when it was on, not too much. It's like, why is this bitch always crying? You know what I mean? So, it's a joke, people. Calm down. Then we have season 3, which brings in the lovely Eliza Dushku, as Faith. And I think season 2, 3, and 4 were the best seasons. And that was also the peak of the show. That's where they had the highest ratings, and the show was the critical darling, and everybody loved it. And then after that, it just it still did well. Buffy and Angel always did well in the ratings, and that's why Buffy was on for 7 seasons, because the ratings were always very strong. It was always very good. But we'll get to that in a moment here. So yeah, I think these 3 I had. I think I had like the slimmer releases, so I got rid of those and got these because, number one, they are nicer. I do like when they actually gave a shit about packaging, and then also to match with the other ones. And then we have season 4, which was the last really good season, at least as far as I'm concerned. But I do think, I know Angel, of course, got his own spin-off, which I do love. But I do think that the show did dip a little bit when Angel left. But he guest starred in a bunch of season 4 episodes. Like, they did those crossovers, and, he would have a cameo. He would pop up, stuff like that. But, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I do think that it kind of dropped a little bit when he left, because then Buffy was just... She was with Riley, which I do like. I like Mark Blucas. I thought he did good. And then she was with Spike, and, then she was kind of bouncing around with people, and it's like, But I do think, her one true love is Angel, which is weird because I think that Cordelia's one true love is Angel as well, so, of course, it is what it is. Then we have season 5, which I think this one I also had the slimmer packaging, because I actually bought this brand new and I just cracked the seal on the side. So there you go. But this was the last season that aired on the WB. There was a lot of drama behind the scenes with this show because, yeah, it was still their number one show. It was still their most popular show, but they didn't want it because they had, your show is more popular. It keeps going. You want more money. And they just didn't want to give more money to Buffy for some reason. So this was the last season that aired on the WB, and then the UPN picked it up, which that network was kind of struggling at the time. Because it's so funny that the WB and UPN had very similar histories, and then they ended up merging to create the CW. It's kind of weird how that happened. There is a book out there. I don't know the name of the book off the top of my head, but there is a book that talks about both of the networks and their rise and their fall and everything. And I heard it's really good. I would like to get it. But the WB canceled. They didn't cancel Buffy. They said they were ending Buffy, which is why she dies at the end of this season. Spoiler alert for a season that's 25 years old at this point. But season 5, there's good stuff in there. Buffy's mom dying. Buffy dying. I like Michelle Trachtenberg, but that's when they started running out of ideas, at least as far as I'm concerned. And then, Buffy has a sister. Oh, but she's the key and she's important. And I'm like, okay, now they're running out of ideas. So there you go. But there is some good episodes. So UPN picked up the show, which was a big deal back then. And then they also got Roswell, but Roswell wasn't doing well, so they dumped Roswell after a year, which is a shame because I do like that show. Again, that's another show where the first season was the best, and then they started changing everything, and then people got bored. So there you go. And then the last 2 seasons aired on UPN, which I do. Season 7, I think, is the weakest. Season 6, I mean, I like the idea that the villains were these nerds in high school. I thought that was a cool idea. I like Evil Willow, but overall, it's just like, to me, they just started running out of ideas with season 5, as far as I'm concerned. I don't mind the lesbian relationship because it was done tastefully. It wasn't woke. It wasn't, look, we like to suck pussy. You know what I mean? Men suck. They didn't do that, which was nice. It was done very classy. It was done very tastefully, like Xena did. And there's the nerds right there. But I like that. I thought that was a funny. Like, these were the guys that got picked on in high school, and now they're the bad guys. Okay, it's kind of an interesting concept, but that was the DVD. That was not me. I think the show after season 4, again, that was their peak. People were looking at, again, it still did very well. Don't get me wrong. It still made money. Ratings were very good, but I don't think the show was ever really the same after the 4th season. That's just me. And then I do think season 7 is the weakest because they just started shoving all the ideas in there because it was the last season. I do like that they brought back Angel, but it was just a cameo. I guess they're like, well, he has his own show. You know what I mean? But I like that they brought him back for he's in the last episode. It's just a cameo. But the episode before that, he shows up right at the end, and then it segues in. But, it would have been cool if maybe he stuck around for the final battle. They started this thing together. They're going to end this thing together. But also, I think it was probably one of those things where they thought, why does Angel need to be here? He has his own show. It's going to take away. You know what I mean? It's just the stupid logic that they have. And then also, when Anthony Head left the show, Giles, it did also suffer a little bit. I know he wanted to move on. He wanted to do some other things. He was tired of, because he was still in England at the time. He was tired of leaving his family in England and having to fly to LA all the time, which I completely understand. So, then they brought him back as kind of a special guest star, But the first 4 seasons, the first 3 seasons, high school, high school in hell, yes. Season 4, college in hell, yes. After that, there is good episodes, there's good stuff in there, but to me, and I know a lot of other people feel the same way, after that, it just kind of dipped off, and I don't think it really recovered, but people were just so into it, because if you go online and you look at the ratings were always very good for Buffy. So that's why they kept it going. And it made money, the advertising revenue and such. And then, I think after season 4, it went into syndication because they had enough episodes. Yeah, 20, 22, 44, 66, yeah. And then season 1 was only 13. So they had enough episodes to put it off into syndication. When it went on FX got it, which I know you're thinking, well, it wasn't it the same as Fox? Well, yeah, because Fox owned the network. But that was a big deal because I remember watching it on there quite a bit, and then it went into local syndication, and I think it made a lot of money there. So, it made money. So there you go. And then, since these will not fall, I have all of Angel. And these I had back when I first got these on DVD. which I only ever really got into these two shows about maybe 10 years ago now. Actually, no, a little bit longer. Because I was like, all right, I'm gonna see what the hype is. I think I had season 1 of Buffy first, and then I found it randomly, and then I grabbed the rest of them. But these I actually had the slimmer DVD cases because they were on sale at a FYE. I think maybe they were $20 a pop or whatever, so I grabbed them. But I got rid of those and got these because, again, a little classier presentation. They are nicer. Just, again, I liked when they actually cared about packaging. I know it's trivial, but in the words of the Crow, nothing is trivial. So there you go. So we have season uno, which might be my favorite season, because here it was just Angel, being the Dark Avenger and solving the crimes and helping people. Not that they didn't do that in the other seasons, but here that was really the focus. And then the other seasons, they started adding layers to it, because Angel has layers, just like ogres and onions have layers. And I did watch this last year for Halloween because it was the 25th anniversary of the show, and I was like, damn, I forgot how good this is. And then you finish it, and then you want to watch it all over again. So there you go. And this is obviously season 2. I know I didn't say it, but... And these also, going back a second, these DVDs, the Buffy and Angel DVDs, actually were huge sellers back in the day. I think it was Star Trek, The Simpsons. I think The Simpsons was the highest selling DVD for TV shows until Chappelle Show came out. The first season of the Chappelle Show, when that came out on DVD, ended up being the best selling TV series. And okay, that's it. Some of the teeth of some of the trays here are busted, so the discs are falling out, but that's okay. But yeah, I think the Simpsons for a while was the highest selling TV series. Star Trek was always like right beneath it, and then Buffy and Angel were up there. I think X-Files was up there, and then Chappelle Show, when that first season came out, wiped everybody out. So there you go. And then we have season 3. With season 2, they brought back Darla to get rid of Angel, and it didn't work. And then season 3, she gets pregnant, which, okay, vampires can't have kids. Oh, it's because Angel has his soul and he's human. You're not human, but you know what I mean. He has humanity. I thought that was an interesting concept. And then the baby gets kidnapped and goes into the other world, which I did like that idea, how they brought back, they like froze this guy in time that had a beef with Angel, and then they brought him, got Keith Zabayaka. I don't know how to say his name. I'm sorry. I'm probably butchering his name, but I like his work as an actor. Then we have season 4, which gets into this, like, Connor comes back and he's an adult, which I like that. It's Vincent Kartheiser from Mad Men, actually. This is obviously way before Mad Men. But also, I know him more for the movie Masterminds, which was Die Hard at a high school. So there you go. And then Angel's looks like he's got a shotgun or something on there. He's about to blow some shit up. But... I like that stuff. I like that he was conspiring to kill Angel. But and then this is where the demon, the beast, I think it was his name, and the only way that they could kill him, like he knew Angel from back in the day, and the only way they could kill him is if Angel turned evil again. I like that they did that, but it was only a couple of episodes. Buffy season 2, it was half of the season, you know what I mean? And then it pisses me off. The stupid bullshit they did where Cordelia and Connor get together, and then she gets pregnant, they did that because Charisma Carpenter got pregnant in real life, which is how she got fired from the show, actually, which is bullshit. So fuck you, Joss Whedon, for that. And he's like asking her if she's going to keep it, and everything. Fuck you, dude. Anyway, but God bless Cordelia, or Charisma Carpenter. She got through it. That poor woman. But they did that stupid storyline where her and Connor hooked up, and then she gave birth to Jasmine, which was the goddess, which is actually Gina Torres. I mean, Gina Torres did fine. I like her work, don't get me wrong, but I thought that was stupid. Then they blocked out the sun and all that stupid shit. Like, that's where that's where it lost me. And I know a lot of people don't like that either. A lot of people hate that storyline. Then we have season 5, which, I don't know, season 1, season 5, they kind of changed, but this is where it got really dark, it got really heavy. You know, they were fighting against this evil corporation of lawyers, which makes total sense. And then they brought back Spike, which was awesome, but that was this, not me. But the shitty thing is, they fired Charisma Carpenter to bring back James Marsders to play Spike because they couldn't afford to pay both of them. So that was another reason why they got rid of her. And then Fred unfortunately dies, but she becomes Elia, I think is her name, the demon. So Amy Acker was still on the show, you know, so she's a different character. But, you know, this is where the show, I think, got really, really interesting. And then they decided, you know, we're going to cancel it. We're done. We don't want to keep paying for this. But I think also the WB kept Angel going because Buffy was still on, and they knew that if we keep Angel on, people will watch Buffy, and then they'll come over and watch Angel. But also, the weird thing was, Buffy and Angel aired back-to-back for the first 3 seasons of Angel, because it was still on the same network. Yeah, 4 and 5. Yeah, the first 2 seasons, excuse me. But after that, they kept fucking around and moving Angel on different nights and days, and, you know, and there you go, for whatever reason. Because I think when Buffy went to the UPN, I think it was still on the same night, if I'm not mistaken. It was in the same time slot. But Angel, they kept fucking around with the time slot for whatever reason. But the show still had good ratings. But I think they canceled it because, number one, Buffy was off the air. They let it go another year after Buffy ended. Like, we'll just see what happens. And it still did well. And then they pulled the plug because they were like, fuck it, why are we going to keep paying? You know what I mean? And a lot of people were upset. Like, I remember when that happened. I remember, like, and I wasn't really into the show at that time. But I remember, like, there was a kid at school that was really into it. And he told me how pissed off he was about it. Because I was like, oh, cool, yeah, I've heard of Buffy and Angel, you know. At that point, I had read some of the comics, because the school actually had some of the comic books. And he was pissed. Like, I remember he was really upset about that, so, you know, but people were really mad. Alright, so I will wrap up these last couple here, because that actually will be a good segue. We'll knock out the last, or the rest of the back row here on top, and then we'll jump right into the bottom row next time. So yeah, about two segments, a shelf here, something like that. So first up, we have One Man Force with Sloth himself, John Matuzak. They tried to make him an action star, and it didn't really work. But actually, I kind of like this movie. I don't think it's a bad little B movie. And again, it's one of those platinum DVDs, slim cases that ended up becoming, again, Echo Bridge. But yeah, I think this was a blind buy. I think I found it at a FYE for a couple bucks or something. I'm like, oh, John Matuzak, Sloth. I think the only other movie he did was The Ice Pirates, if I'm not mistaken, which I've never seen. Next up, we have The Adventures of Pinocchio. They fucked up with this DVD. The DVD should have had the lenticular cover like the VHS did. Just saying. I used to watch this movie a lot when I was a kid. I remember renting it from the video store quite a bit. And I always liked it. Steve Barron directed this, who did the first Ninja Turtles film. Excuse me. It does still have a little... I didn't notice that. Come on. I'll get it. Fuck it. I'll get it later. But I always enjoyed this film. I think it was a huge flop when it came out. I believe they were going to do a sequel, but I think that sequel ended up going straight to video. I never saw that one. I didn't even know that was a thing until a couple years ago. Wait, they did a sequel? I didn't know. But I do like this. Martin Landau was great in it. I love at the end of the movie. My favorite joke in the movie is at the end. Actually, no. My favorite joke is when the bird flies into the door and Rob Schneider keeps playing with it and it's like caw caw, even though the bird's supposed to be dead. That's my favorite joke in the movie. My second favorite joke in the movie is at the end, when Pinocchio turns into a boy, Jonathan Taylor Thomas. He hands him this pile of wood. He's like, "Hey, Papa, could you make me a girlfriend?" And Martin Landau goes, "There we go." Martin Landau looks at, "Oh, fuck, it ripped. All right, we'll just leave it on there." Martin Landau looks at him and goes, "You've been a boy 5 minutes and you already want a girlfriend. Ammanaggia," which in Italian is like, "Oh my God." So, I always thought that was funny because obviously I'm Italian, and there you go. And then we have What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Great film. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Great film. There you go. There is a Blu-ray. Again, I just don't have it. But this is another movie that was just constantly on TV when I was growing. Like when AMC first switched over to what they are now, which is mainstream, stuff like that. Because a lot of people don't know, before the fucking Walking Dead and all that other shit, the AMC was like Turner Classic Movies. They showed all the older stuff and uncut and commercial free, and it didn't really make any money, so they had to start adding commercials to make money. And then in 2002, they switched over to more mainstream, more movies that people would actually watch on TV, other than older people, stuff like that. And this was one of the movies that they would show on there constantly because, again, in the beginning, they were only able to get certain movies and such. So, this was one of those films that they ran a lot back then, and HBO and stuff. But always really enjoyed this film. Always thought it was really solid. And my mom, it's funny, because my mom thought that DiCaprio was actually, mentally challenged. I'm like, you didn't see Growing Pains? You didn't see Critters 3? Next up, we have a couple Wayans Brothers movies here. First up, A Low Down Dirty Shame. I absolutely love this movie. This is a classic. Unfortunately, it is not on Blu-ray because it did not do that well when it came out, number one. And also, it's Disney, so I doubt that they're going to put this out on Blu-ray. But this is a great double feature with I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, which was also the Wayans Brothers. But this one I like more because this was more... I'm Gonna Get You Sucker was a parody, it was hilarious, don't get me wrong. But this one was more of just a straight up action movie. It's got comedy, of course. It's the Wayans Brothers. You're gonna get that, which is awesome. But this movie is a lot of fun. I really enjoy this film. Unfortunately, again, there's not going to be an official Blu-ray anytime soon. And then we got White Chicks, which I think this movie is hilarious. Don't get me wrong. This is the unrated and uncut version. I don't think this ever got a Blu-ray for whatever reason. Sony, I guess, said, no, it's too much. It's racist. It's not racist. It's comedy. But I remember seeing this like when it first came out on DVD back in the day, and still really like it. Still think it's funny. And I did see a recent interview with Terry Crews. The interviewer asked him, what song do you want played at your funeral? And he says, 1,000 Miles, and everybody started laughing. He goes, hey, that's my song now. So I just thought that was funny. Next up, we have Susie Q, which was not a Disney Channel original movie, but they aired it quite a bit. Saban actually produced this, and this was the last thing that Amy Jo Johnson did before she left, because she was still on Power Rangers. She wanted to leave. They gave her the 10-episode story arc, and they said, hey, would you mind doing this little movie for us called Susie Q? She said, yeah, sure. And there you go. But it's never come out on any home video format, actually. So, yeah, this is just recorded off of the TV with no commercials. I actually got this. Anybody remember I Offer? I actually got this back there because they had no problem having bootlegs and stuff on there, so I would go on there a lot to get a lot of bootlegs and stuff that wasn't official. And then they did a major overhaul of their site, and then everything was gone, and I don't think it ever came back, so that's sad. But I used to go on there a lot. And last but certainly not least, for this segment, a movie that I don't understand why it's never come out on Blu-ray. Hopefully it will come out on Blu-ray. It is Sony, so who knows. But Iron Eagle. Love Iron Eagle. I think I like Iron Eagle more than Top Gun, to be honest. But, it came out, I think, right before Top Gun. But they were looked at as competing films, because here it says 85. And Top Gun was 86. So there you go. But Iron Eagle is great. I never bothered to watch any of the sequels, but oh well. The original Iron Eagle is awesome. Killer soundtrack. You got Queen and Dio and, other people. Unfortunately, this was a Blockbuster rental, but unfortunately, I didn't do this, but somebody took the chapter insert and they folded it in half and they put it in here. I would have just, because it's not going to fit, but I would have just laid it in the front, which is what I'm going to do right now. And flatten it out. So there you go. I don't know who did that, but it wasn't me. It wasn't me. But yeah, I love Iron Eagle. The third Iron Eagle got a Blu-ray, which does with Sonny Chiba. Maybe I'll watch that one because he's in it, but the first one doesn't have a Blu-ray. I don't know if it's the music or what the case is, but I don't know. But can we please get Iron Eagle on Blu-ray? Pretty please, pretty please, with a cherry on top? I don't know. Anyway, that is it. For now, this is part 32. We will pick back up in part 33, and we will finish up the third shelf, and then we will move into the fourth shelf. The bottom two shelves are going to be the big dogs here, at least for this one. And then that actually will be all of the stuff that I have watched, and then we'll get into the stuff that I haven't watched. So I have a couple shelves of stuff I have not watched yet, so working on it. Slowly but surely. But anyway, as always, thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk at you all later. See ya!